Welcome to the inaugural beginning of the first episode of what should hopefully be a long and healthy podcast known as Masters of the Forge. I'm Snorre.
My name is Adam.
And let's get this train rolling.
Woo woo!
It's going to be an interesting episode because we already recorded this once and it didn't really sound all that great because, well, it was the first try at a really interesting format. And we know everything got pretty much jumbled up and sounded really crappy, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. This format has the distinction of having never been tried before, and I think that we'll work through the bugs. And even though we've re-recorded, I think over time, as the episodes go, we're going to make further alterations and adjustments, and things will improve as time goes on.
Yeah, although I think our alterations is a big word. I think we're looking at tweaks.
Yeah, I think we did a really good job this time.
Yeah. What are we looking at today? We're looking at about an hour or so of missions and characters and basically good old fun.
Yep, and it's all for a book called Death of Antagonis about the Black Dragons.
Yes.
And chaos fighting over several planets and resources. And the podcast is about how you bring that book to the table.
Yes. It's the first of 2 episodes, and you will encounter some spoilers if you haven't read the book. So feel free to read the book and then properly listen to the show so we don't ruin the book for you. Or if you're not that kind of guy, go ahead, listen to us, download the supplement that we're releasing, and have fun.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, Snorre. I am a part of this podcast as kind of a 40K hardcore fluff virgin, really. Death of Antagonis is the first 40K novel I've ever read, and I was a devout listener to your podcast, so to your old podcast. So, and I definitely listened to all the Black Library corners on the independent characters too. So. I don't care about spoilers either.
Yeah, it's good. Some people can handle it, some people hate it, but we're all different.
Yeah, and it's always good to give the warning ahead of time.
Oh yes. So hey, we're actually, since this is the first time we're on air as this podcast, we should introduce ourselves. And as the resident noob, you go first.
Thanks, Snorre.
You're welcome.
My name is Adam. Some of you may know me as Loopy on many of the many forums that I frequent, such as the Independent Characters Forum, where I've recently been made a moderator. Also, the Freebooter forums, where I've been for quite some time as a member, and I also am I'm very prolific on the Overlord's Facebook page, and I'm known in those areas as Loopy mainly. I also have a blog called Wog Joltiv, named after the warlord of my orc army, which is about 12,000 points painted. I started 40K in 2010, which is fairly recently. But it basically started when I've always been interested in 40K, but I didn't think I could afford it until a buddy of mine brought up the fact that we were grown-ups with grown-up jobs now, and we could play whatever game we darn well pleased. So it was a quick downward slide to a giant pile of plastic and resin. And before that, I've been playing games since around 1993 or 1994, when and that's about as long as I've been DMing for various games like Vampire the Masquerade back when I was a teenager, but I've always played Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm still running a Pathfinder campaign. If you don't know what Pathfinder is, it's basically D&D 3.5, but better. Yeah, and so I think that hopefully that background will help me be a positive force on the podcast for developing rules and scenarios and making them fun.
Yeah, we noticed that when we saw the scenarios you've been writing up. Your game mastering experiences really show.
Thank you so much, and I had a lot of fun doing it, and I really hope that some of the other more experienced fellows out there could even help me out. Um, Help us out even. We'd really love for everyone to get involved, and if you play these scenarios, please give us feedback. We'd be happy to make alterations as people go through them.
Yep.
So Snorre, tell us about you.
Yeah.
We know you, but we don't know you.
Yeah, well, this is a new podcast. There are probably new listeners who haven't heard about Deep Strike Radio before, so I'll just do it again.
Yeah,
it's not that hard.
We're going to be so popular that people are going to want to go back and listen to the first episode and find out who you are.
Yeah, well, I didn't join Deep Strike Radio until the last 6 months, so just after we got a couple of new hosts. But, my history of 40K begins in technically around 93, I think, because that was when I bought my first paint starter kit, both the Space Wolf starter kit and the regular Space Marine starter kits. Those... it's actually the same bottles as the P3, I think. And, a couple of pewter Space Marine things, Beak Marines. I painted them, they sucked, and they pretty much just got shelved and probably thrown away sometime. And nothing really happened until one of my friends basically dragged me to Games Workshop, and we picked up the Assault on Black Reach kit in 2009. Orcs never really appealed to me, so they were given to another friend who's now a complete nut about orcs. And I picked up Tau in 2009, late 2009. And I suffered through all of 5th edition, what remained of 5th edition, playing Tau, which is quickly summed up as I think I can count on 3 fingers how many games I won. Yeah, it was the cookie cutter kind of solution to how to win a game against Tau. Just run into their faces and kill them, because they cannot do anything unless they're shooting. And even then, they didn't really do an impressive job.
Well, one would argue that's the way it is now, too. They just shoot so well that you just die.
Yeah, but now they shoot well because of all their interesting rules and the whole, rapid fire at half range. They got better range on Meltas. They got a lot going for them, especially even in 6th edition when it came out, the stealth suits. Come on. They can stand in the open and have a 4+ cover save. They can stand with 1 foot in a crater and have a 2+ cover save. How awesome is that?
So great.
Yeah, but when 6th edition came out, my buddy Anders and we played a couple of test games to just try out the new rules, and I haven't touched Tau, with the exception of one doubles tournament. I haven't touched my Tau since.
Well, I understand that, because winning is just dumb. Screw winning. I'm starting to start Chaos Space Marines army.
Exactly. Which is what happened to me, because in the meantime, I've been to California twice. I met Jim, as in Big Jim. Stayed with him for several days, and found out he's a really awesome guy. He got me turned on to Battlefleet Gothic, which I now own a 2,000 point Tau fleet, which I probably never will use because there aren't any Battlefleet Gothic players in the area, especially now that they've canceled the game. Last year, as in September 2013, I was at the, I think we called it the Gathering of Heroes at Carl's place, as in Carl of the Independent Characters. And
name drop.
Yeah. He lent me his Plague Marine army for the event. So I ran a 1,000-point double Helldrake Plague Marine list with Tasty Taste, who played, I I think it was a double Flying Croissant Necron army against 2 Space Marine players with no anti-air. It was ridiculous. John of the Overlord still hates me for that, I'm pretty sure. But hey, it was really fun because a lot of the people behind both the Overlords and independent characters and, bloggers and such in the 40k community just gathered up for beer and games. It was awesome.
So you fell to chaos that day.
Oh, did I? I looked at these models because he used the Forge World Death Guard conversion pieces, and I was like, oh my god, I have to get this because I always wanted Death Guard army, but I never really got around to it. And my buddy Anders, he kind of wants someone himself, but, we both, it's like, it's chaos, it's kind of evil, tainted, everything. But, after seeing them, touching them, it was like, oh, forget any kind of reservation. I want this. So, over the month of December, I think pretty much all of the month of December, I assembled about 1,000 points of Death Guard fully painted, which was like... yay, because it's the first fully painted army I've ever had. My Tau, several thousand points of Tau, still, base coated pale yellow. My Necrons, not really that well painted, if at all. And my Space Marines, well, they're half painted, so they're actually almost on the way to being a fully painted army, but, it's still a long way.
Yeah, there's something to be said for being excited about an army when you're painting it. It really helps with the motivation.
Yeah, and Death Guard, it's dirty, it's rusted. There's something in that color scheme that just appeals to me.
It's fun. It's like when I paint my orcs. I mean, I'm not saying that orcs are easy because they're super hard to paint, but you can get into it. You can get down and dirty with it. It's like finger painting. You can just, there's no rules really.
Yeah.
So, what else have you been doing, man?
That was army wise. Yes, I was a host on Deep Strike before that imploded, and Camille and Jim were supposed to be here. Camille, he had a water leak from the apartment above that kind of ruined half his apartment, so he's unable to be here tonight. And Jim couldn't be with this podcast at all, at least on air full time, because he's got a new awesome job, which makes it hard for him to take time podcasting.
Yeah, so, congratulations, Jim.
Yeah, great job. Everything. I'm really glad for Jim because he really needed this awesome job because he's worked so hard to get it. But
he totally deserves it. He deserves whatever he gets. That's really awesome. Good for him.
Yeah, and even though he's not here full time, he will help us out in the background, and he will be here for interviews if we need it. Help with, for example, next episode we're going to talk about Killzone, and we really hope that we can have Jim there.
Yeah, and he's going to look at our scenarios too. He said that he'll look at our scenarios and our rules and help us out with those too. So thanks a lot, Jim. We really appreciate that.
Yeah,
and also he'll be here in spirit.
Always.
Anything else, Snorre? What have you been doing recently?
Painting Death Guard and painting more Death Guard. Was it 27 Death Guard Plague Marines? Necrosius, the sorcerer model from Forge World, a couple of Demon Princes, some Chaos Bikers.
Mm-hmm. You're burying the lead, Snorre. You're burying the lead. What else did you buy for your Chaos army?
Well, it's all over Facebook now, but I finally jumped into the deep end and ordered myself a Chaos Warhound Titan. Yeah! Because Knights are, they're mini Titans. They're mini-me's.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Tim, the guy who was on Independent Characters, episode 97, I sent it to him because he volunteered, God bless him, for to assemble the thing. And, hopefully in a couple of months I will see it at home so I can paint it. That's going to take forever, but I look forward to every moment.
Oh, absolutely. That's going to be a wonderful
Yeah.
project. And it's gonna be assembled the right way too, which is great.
Yeah, by the sound of it, I'm kind of feeling bad for the guy because he does a fantastic job assembling this stuff. And it's like I can throw $1,000 at him for doing the job because he deserves it, but even that will be not enough to really cover what he's done.
Yeah. Well, don't forget, he said it. He wouldn't have offered if he didn't consider it fun himself.
Yeah, he said himself he loves to assemble Forge World big models. So
Yep.
yeah,
So, oh man, I've had a busy, busy month or two personally. I've been working on a commission that I got myself into, building a pair of Reaver Titans, which I am probably not cut out for. I'm not gonna lie. I'm an orc. I'm an orc hobbyist at heart, and all of these straight lines are driving me bonkers.
yeah, and these aren't really Forge World Titans, are they?
No, they are scratch built, and I'm regretting it, but at the same time, it's taught me a good lesson about taking things on that I shouldn't. So, since the last time we spoke, though, I have gotten a lot of progress done on it, so I'm really happy about that. Once I finish the first Titan, I'm gonna build and paint my Necron army. I'm taking the weekend Necron army build and paint challenge. We'll see if I can actually manage it because I'm not doing just silver. I'm doing like a rusty Necrons in a swamp type scheme.
Ah, so it's not just the classic spray black, dry brush, some metallic done.
Yeah, no, it's actually gonna be going to try to make it good. So I think I'm going to build it ahead of time, then do a weekend paint challenge. I think that's what I'll do. So we'll record that on the Facebook page. We'll see how that goes. What else? Like I said before, I was made a moderator of the Independent Characters forum, and I've been helping out with the Hobby Progress Challenge there. I have my own challenge. I'm working on Sisters of Battle, the Daughters of the Eternal, or the Daughters of the Final Autumn, which is kind of a play on, the 41st millennium being the end, basically the end of times, and they're fighting this hopeless last battle for the Emperor. That's a really nice scheme, and I'd like to spend more time on it. But we'll see how this commission goes. But yeah, they're like my love project right now. I really enjoy them. What else have I been doing? I'm going to Adepticon in a few weeks, or probably by the time this releases, I will have gone to Adepticon.
We'll see if we can get this show out a little bit before that.
Sweet, that'll be cool. So I'm doing the GT. I do enjoy tournaments because I like meeting new people. It's like one of my favorite things is meeting new hobbyists and getting their viewpoint on the game and playing games with them. It's one of my favorite things to do, and it's kind of like 40K speed dating. Really, it's sometimes it's painful, but for the most part, it's great meeting new people.
So basically, you're asking them, you're doing the handshake, and then you ask them, "Have you seen Firefly?" And if they say no, then sorry, Mister, you lose. Next game, please.
Okay, if they say they've never seen Firefly, the table gets flipped at that moment. I don't even care if their models are on the table. Table flip.
Yeah, so you do the handshake before you take your models out.
Yeah, it's very important because I will end up flipping my own models. I'll be so angry.
Yeah.
What are you doing with your life? Seriously. I hope I didn't just alienate thousands of listeners.
I don't think there's any listeners here who don't know what Firefly is.
True. But that doesn't mean there aren't any hipsters out there who are like, "Oh no, Firefly, I'm stupid."
We don't care about hipsters.
That's true. You're right. They don't need to listen to our show. All right. So, yeah, I'm doing that, and I'm bringing orcs, obviously. So we'll see how that goes. I like to keep a nice, 50% win loss ratio, and I like to do really well on paint. Last year, I got the full points on paint. I didn't get any of the bonus points. Like they when they do their scoring, you get maximum is like 37, and then you get bonus points. And I didn't get any bonus points, but I got the full 37. And I think I took 34th overall out of
That's
200 and something.
that's really good.
Yeah, that's what I like, the overall. If anybody knows anything about me as far as um, the hobby is concerned, the whole hobby is where I'm at. I love painting. I love the story. I love telling stories, and I love competition. I like it all, and that's what's important to me. I love the overall. I love getting a good overall score, and that's really what I go for. So I'm also doing the team tournament with some familiar names. Let's do some name dropping, shall we?
Yay.
The captain of the team is Kieran from the Overlords. And along with us is Adon, and from the independent characters, and a gentleman named Matt, who is not on a podcast, but he's cool, so that's fine. We're running Orcs and Chaos Space Marines, and we're playing a pair of rock bands. The opening act is Tusca. It's an orc band of goth rockas who I actually got some goth rocka models. A buddy named John bought me some for Christmas, and I bought some for myself and did some scratch building, and I'm running them as flash gits.
Just to interject here a little bit, you're
Okay.
calling them Tusca?
Yes, their name is Tusca.
Okay, do you realize there's a metal festival in Finland, in Helsinki, called the Tusca Metal Festival?
No kidding. I had
Yes,
no
kidding.
idea. That is awesome. That adds some wonderful. That adds a wonderful level to this. So Tusca is actually the manager and drug dealer of Tusca is a red-skinned goblin, and this goblin is actually a demon in disguise. He is he's giving out warp dust to all the band members, and they're snorting it and getting crazy. And also, they've fallen in with a chaos warband, and the leaders of this warband are Lord Nils Verboten and the Cult of the Sonic Temple. Now, these guys are basically they're a chaos band of a band, I guess. That's weird, but yeah, they're a band.
Chaos War Band of
band members. So he's bringing lots of like sonic weapons and stuff. So we're gonna have a stage, and I'm actually gonna buy this awesome stage, that toy stage that you can hook up your MP3 player to it, and it has speakers.
Yeah, I saw it. It's a Playmobil something.
Yep,
It looks interesting.
Yeah. So basically, the story, I kind of made up this story for myself. So the demon in disguise is basically trying to bring forth the orc Tusca from the warp. Are you familiar with the story of Tusca?
No.
Okay, so Tusca is an orc warlord who threw his boys against the Imperium in many engagements across the Imperium. So particularly on places like Death Worlds, a lot of them having absolutely no real tactical or material strength at all. And the Imperium's questioning, why is he doing this? Why would he waste his men on these useless targets? Well, it comes to find out that Tusca is training his boys to fight in harsh environments so he can throw his entire fleet into the Eye of Terror and fight demons.
Huh.
He's awesome. So he does this, and he throws his entire fleet into the Eye of Terror, and they eventually come to this blood world, which ends up being basically Valhalla for orcs. It's Orkhala. They fight and die every single day, and are resurrected only to fight and die again.
Candyland for orcs.
It really is. So I've always wanted to do an army based on this story.
Well, I love the concept.
Yeah, so this Adepticon team like list that I made up with the band and the demon goblin who's basically accounts as Pain Boy is the precursor to this army I want to build of guys who are summoned to the Materium by this band that's been basically running around playing music, taking blood sacrifices in battles along with the forces of chaos. So the team tournament is basically going to be a blood sacrifice to this god, to this war band, this Tusca, and hopefully we'll summon them forth, kind of changed anew, and it'll be a chaos demon, counts as chaos demon orc army.
So, here's just something that strikes me. Demons and orcs. You're just building a dork army?
Oh, God bless you, Snorre. That is fantastic. Yeah, the more puns we come up with, I think the more listeners we're going to have.
Well, a secret recipe to podcasting is to insult your co-hosts.
Nice. So yeah. So I can't wait to make my dork army. That'll be fantastic. I think that'll be the secret code name, kind of like Torchwood was for Doctor Who. We're just gonna call this the dork army.
The what of the who?
Doctor Who. Back when Doctor Who first came out, the secret name, the secret code word for the project was Torchwood, which is an anagram for Doctor Who. And then they made a spin-off of Doctor Who called Torchwood, but
okay, you're talking about new Doctor Who, are you?
Yeah.
I don't watch that stuff. I'm a purist. I only go for the old stuff.
Oh, but it's so good. I know that we both watched 4 back in the day on PBS. Well, you probably didn't watch it on PBS, but
4?
Sorry, the 4th Doctor.
Oh yeah. Was that Baker?
Yeah, Tom Baker.
Yeah, and then I like the 3rd and the 4th. So John Pertwee and Tom Baker. Yeah. Those are my favorites.
Yeah, they were cool, but I love the drama of the new one. So that's not all I've been working on, actually.
Is there more?
No, there is more, but I want to talk about it. I'm excited. We're starting a campaign at our local store. I think our listeners should probably have been somewhat following it, as I've been posting stuff about it on our Facebook page. It's the War of Zorn 4, which is a large gas giant in the habitable zone of a system with lots of moons that are actually, capable of sustaining life. So it creates an interesting it creates an interesting story where I can have battles going on across different different moons and have like lots of different kinds of terrain to use and lots of different special rules. It's kicked off this month, and I think people are really enjoying it. We've been able to kind of break out of the... I really recommend campaigns because they really break you out of the pickup game shell you kind of end up getting yourself into.
Yeah. I guess I misunderstood the whole campaign because I thought it was sort of like here's a sector system or something, and then different planets, but you're actually talking about just moons around the planet.
Yeah, that's why it's so valuable, because the worlds are so close together and all of them have such good natural resources that it makes it highly defensible. So it's a very valuable target, unlike a regular star system or a series of systems, which would require a lot of naval assets to control. Just one planet with that many resources is extremely valuable.
Nice.
So I'll just chat a little bit about it. I think maybe in a future episode I'll go into more detail. But it's basically 3 forces. One is the forces of the Imperium, which is obvious. I'm letting people use whatever chapters they want. There's no reason to get too restrictive. Which also includes Imperial Guard and Sisters and whatnot. The Dark Star Armada, which are the forces of chaos, including... You can also use Imperial Guard for that as long as they're traitors. And as well as Chaos Space Marines and the Dark Eldar are working with them. Of course, the Dark Eldar player has insisted if anybody plays Slaanesh, he will turn on his ally instantly. even if it's on the other on a different table in a different game. So that's fine. And the last group are the Tidebringer Enclave, which are Tau that have hired orcs as allies.
Just to be a little bit nitpicky here, but Tau hiring orcs.
Oh,
Tau
yeah.
hate orcs
This
with a
is
vengeance.
so the leader of the so this is a one ship, one cruiser trapped in pretty much deep within enemy space. Their Firecast leader was slain in combat during a fight, and they lost a lot of their resources. So a very well-liked Ethereal actually took charge of their forces and has placed herself in a position that would normally be left for a Firecast member. So she is making deals that a Ethereal or a Firecast commander would not just make on their own. She's basically acting as both fire and watercast at the same time. So she's able to understand orcs better than pretty much any Tau in history, other than the one who hates, who's that Farsight, who hates them. Like, she understands them better. She's able to actually make deals with the Blood Axes, and she's doing whatever she can to survive and fulfill her mission.
Is there anything else you want to cover?
No, I think I've talked about myself enough, to be perfectly honest. I need to save some content for later, for future episodes, to talk about myself. But we've been doing a lot of fun games, and I'll be sure to keep everybody posted on those campaign games, because we've been using things like the Archaeotech artifacts and stuff, and that's all been super fun. And I want to give people tips on how to use it and have it still be a fun game.
Okay. That's pretty much it, I guess, because that was a lot.
Yeah.
So we're going to go for drinks, and we'll be right back, and we'll be diving into Death of Antagonis, Part 1.
Yes, thank you, Snorre. I need more summer ale.
You lucky bastard. I have water. You know, Chaos Warhound put such a dent in my wallet. There's nothing but bread and water for me for the next month.
It was worth it, Snorre. It was worth it.
It was.
All right,
okay, see you soon.
Hey, Masters of the Forge listeners. Are you looking to expand your Warhammer 40,000 gaming group?
Do you want to start a 40K gaming club in your area?
Then what better way than to advertise on the Masters of the Forge podcast? And all that we ask of you is that you email us the full text of your advertisement, including the region in which you live, and any contact information people can use to contact you.
We will have one of our many tech servitors read your advertisement on the air, and we promise not to make fun of you.
Though we can't always predict the actions of our servitors, you really can't find good help these days.
No, you can't.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Today we're talking about the book Death of Antagonis. We're going to go over the first two scenarios in that novel, the first two battles, involving some rather disgusting little chaos beasties. Both of these scenarios are GM-led scenarios. They are meant to really focus on a single player or group of players trying to get through a pair of difficult situations. The chaos side of the battles are a little bit more boring to run, so that's why it has to be in the mindset of a GM. Plus, they're a little different from a regular scenario and require someone's judgment as to when certain things happen.
Yeah, the first scenario is a gauntlet mission, basically survive from A to B, and the second one is a survive for as long as you can kind of scenario.
That's right. So
of the forces on the table, the first one is the Black Dragons. They are a Space Marine chapter with some interesting mutations because their bone growth organ is kind of working hyper overdrive.
You can say that again.
Yeah, they look fairly human, some of them, but those human-looking guys usually have some bony structure, kind of like a Wolverine, or the Wolverine from X-Men, kind of just shooting out when they need it, or they have bony growth that just are out at all times. And they don't mind showing it off either, because they make holes in their armor, like a helmet if they have a big horn in the front of their head, or in their greaves if they have bony growths coming out of their arms. Some of them look pretty much like demons because they have just horns everywhere and just look really chaosy, even though they aren't.
Yeah, like imagine space wolves, except instead of wolves, dragons.
Yeah.
And they don't care. They just don't. I mean, you could say to them, "You are tainted by chaos," and they would look at you like you are nuts and say, "No, we are blessed by the Emperor."
Yeah.
In fact, their chaplains use a really awesome litany in the book that really quite aptly describes their attitude towards this. If you don't mind, I'm going to take liberty and read this passage here. Emperor, curse thy servants that we might feel thy shaping hand. Forge them fire and bone that we shall evermore mightily defend thee. Mold them, O Emperor, our Father and Savior of man, and for the glory of thy name, deliver thy enemies unto us, O Emperor, hear our prayer, and let the cry of our rage come unto the heretic, bless the curse.
Beautifully written. Trust me, the book is fantastic.
Yeah, one thing about this book, it seems everything happens very quickly, and the pace is really quick, and a lot of the time some of the language feels very basic, very simple, but that's almost it's almost a Hemingway-ish style rather than, I think, lack of skill, because there's a lot of passages in this book that are very, very well done.
There's a lot of duality going on in the book, that things that can seem like one thing, but they're kind of the opposite, but it's not super obvious. So what is presented sometimes as the seemingly good guys aren't, and the seemingly bad guys seem like really good guys at times. So you're always a little bit off balance when it comes to trying to figure out who the good guys and who the bad guys are, which really makes the book a good read.
Absolutely. I would actually go so far as to say the main theme of this book is duality, and the fact that you can't judge the book by its cover, and the fact that the black dragons are the main focus of this book really speak to that, because that's really their whole being, is that we are these monsters, but we fight for the Emperor.
Yeah. So now we can talk a little bit more about the Black Dragons chapter itself. They were part of the 21st Founding, also known as the Cursed Founding, and because of this, the Inquisition, they don't really get along with these guys. The Inquisition usually try to hunt down and kill most of these chapters, disband them, try to make sure that they exterminate themselves in combat or whatever. And simply because there's so many weird mutations going around, like the... what are they called again? The fire... Not the Firehawks, but there's another fire chapter. Name escapes my mind. But basically, they when the mutation manifests, they're on fire. They're actually physically burning, even though they don't take.
Awesome.
Yeah, but they don't take damage from it. They're just burning. But hey, try to come up to some people and, oh, hey, let me take off my helmet and show you who I am. And people run screaming, thinking you're made of evil. So yeah, they're basically really bad PR for the Imperium.
Yeah, definitely. That whole 21st Founding, from what I understand, is just a major blemish, and the Inquisition would wipe them all out if they had the opportunity.
Yeah, the few chapters that aren't completely messed up in their own way, which is technically messed up in a good way, but they're kind of unstable. Those who haven't turned to chaos, who haven't manifested these weird mutations, the Inquisition allows them to stay as a chapter, but they're keeping a very close eye on them just to make sure that these guys are actually okay.
Right. And the ones that have fallen to chaos, let's be honest, Snorre, it's probably the Inquisition's fault.
Quite likely, yeah.
So we've come up with some rules for the Black Dragons that the listeners can use in their games. You want to go over those, Snorre?
Yeah, sure. The first rule we put up is bony growths. Many Space Marines of the Black Dragons boast bony protrusions on various parts of their bodies, which are often enhanced by adamantium. The mutations is random and sometimes not very apparent or strong in some Black Dragons. It is painfully obvious in others, manifesting as spurs of bone protruding from their elbows, horns on top of their heads, and such. Whenever a unit with the Black Dragon's chapter tactic fights in close combat, each warrior gains an additional attack at Initiative 3 and Weapon Skill 1 with the following profile. Strength is user, AP4 melee.
So that's basically, the AP4 is the fact that it's adamantium, right? Like it's sharp adamantium, and at Initiative 3, cause it's more like the Black Dragon thrashing around, and it's usually just a shot from the elbow or a headbutt. It's not really part of their main attacks. Plus, it would be a little overpowered if it happened at Initiative 4, I think.
Yeah, it's basically a follow-up or a precursor kind of attack to whatever fist in the face or bolter to the face or whatever that comes either just before or just after.
Right. And the only time it really would matter a lot is against things like orcs and other low initiative, high volume units. And let's be honest, Space Marines can use a little bit of help there anyways.
Yeah. So, Adam, take us to the next one.
Sure. The next ability from their chapter tactics is Fire and Bone, which is their battle cry. Although they're happy to pour bolter fire into their foes, Black Dragons revel in close combat. Indeed, they responded to the Third War for Armageddon with 9 full companies in order to join the slaughter of greenskins. Yeah, there were 9. I would love to read that story. 9 companies of Black Dragons dropping onto Armageddon, tearing it up with orcs.
Yeah, I wonder which war cry is loudest, Wog or Rar?
Right? All units in Black Dragon's attachment which are able to assault have the Hatred special rule for their enemies. So this is kind of a pseudo chaplain ability where when they roll into combat, or even a pseudo wog of their own, really, the first round of combat they get to reroll their hits.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's really fitting with how they are presented in the book too. These guys, they're angry.
Yeah. You want to take the last piece?
Sure. We call it Pariah because the Black Dragons, they are battle brothers with nobody. Even other Space Marine chapters. So anyone a Space Marine can normally ally with are allies of convenience at best. Inquisition, desperate allies. Grey Knights, come the apocalypse.
Yeah, because if the Grey Knights show up and there are Black Dragons there, it's probably because they did something wrong.
Yeah. So basically, I would say also that if the Black Dragons are there and the Inquisition comes, the Inquisition sees them and it's like, yeah, the orcs over there, they're a problem, but you guys, you're a bigger problem.
Right? Oh, poor Black Dragons. Oh, I wanted to bring something else up. These rules, please use them. I think we love feedback. We are not professional game designers, and we do play test this stuff before we put it out. But any kind of assistance you guys can give us in testing these out and maybe giving us some feedback is greatly appreciated. We're not too proud to get feedback.
Just say bony growths. It's not supposed to be a super overpowered game-winning push the button and game over, but it's just give you slight edge over normal Space Marines, because if it tips the balance completely, then it's too powerful. It's only there to help you a little bit.
That's right. So, also involved in the first couple of battles are the Dragon's Claws. You want to start us off with that, Snorre?
Yeah, it's basically a assault marine unit, and they got their jump packs and everything, but these guys also love to brandish their bony protrusions. They look really horrible, and they're coming in basically feet first or whatever, trying to impale people, just carve the enemy into pieces as they come down.
Yeah, man, these guys are awesome. They come down on a pillar of flame, shooting out of their backs, and half of them wielding flamers and slicing you up with their bony protrusions coming out of their arms. These guys are no joke.
As if assault marines aren't bad enough, just like thinking of how it would look to have a big, what is it, 10 feet tall kind of guy coming in at way too big a high speed. And with a chainsaw and a bolt pistol, that's kind of scary. These guys make assault marines look pretty much like kindergarten stuff.
Yeah, we kind of fashioned these rules wise, kind of like the Death Company. So they're pointed somewhat a little more expensive than that because they do have a little extra. They're 150 points for the first 5. You get a sergeant and four gentlemen with them. They're jump infantry. They basically have the full gamut of war gear that a normal assault marine would have, except instead of just a bolt pistol and chainsword, they have a bolter and a bolt pistol, like a regular tactical marine, because let's be honest, they really don't need a chainsword.
Yep.
Their special rules are very similar to the Death Company in that they have feel no pain and rage. They also have fear. But the main thing, their main difference is that they have the bony protrusions that are a little bit more deadly. They have bone blades coming out of their arms, usually either retractable or not, but they're coated with adamantium, so they're strength user, AP4, melee. You get the extra attack because they have 2 of them. You also still get your extra attack from your chapter tactics. But the other close combat weapons don't count, so you don't get your bolt pistol extra attack also. That would be a little ridiculous. They're also immune to disarming, such as the Eldar disarming strike ability.
Yeah, you can't really cut these things off their hands, and they can't really discard them either.
Right. They are a little bit different from a regular assault squad, whereas they can have 4 of them can have flamers, and you can add an Infernus pistol to the sergeant if you like. But these guys are pretty cool. I think I would like running them.
Yeah, haven't you tried them actually?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I can see this being a problem. By the way, every time we read one of these books, I'm going to want to collect an army.
I know.
I want to have a squad of these guys in my army. It's like straight up. They are so cool. And they would be so much fun to model. I'd have to use chaos bits, though. And I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I wonder how it would work to actually use, say, toothpicks to graft on with some green stuff or something to represent bones. Just like shave them a little bit or just do something with them just to put, say, extra bones coming out from elbows or something.
Yeah, that would probably be a good way to do like the spurs and stuff. Chaos helmets might be good. Or what about the Hormagaunt bits? A lot of people build termagants. I bet there's a lot of Hormagaunt bits out there you can use to make bone sabers.
That's probably a very good idea, actually.
Yeah, so that should be fun. That should be fun to use. And again, most of this stuff we have set up so that you can use throughout these scenarios.
Yep. So we have a couple of special characters for these scenarios also. So they're representing various important characters in the book. And in this first scenario, we're going to meet 2 of them. That will be Sergeant Toharan of the Black Dragons. He is a normal TAC Marine, and he's a pretty cool guy. He's not one of those who have been blessed with a bunch of bone growths. He's actually very normal looking. And that's something he's kind of annoyed by, because he feels like he's a lesser space marine for it. He's not really one of the guys, because this chapter they worship their bony protrusions.
Yeah, I agree. And that's part of his that's really a big part of his character. The fact that you know he feels a little bit less than because of it. He not only that, but when we meet later on, we meet an Adepta Sororitas, and he makes a mental note that she's the tallest human he's ever seen, but she's still tall. She's about as tall as he is.
Yeah. So yeah, he's a pretty average sergeant. Nothing special, really. He has the chapter tactics Black Dragons, but apart from that, not really much. He doesn't have the bone blades. That's one of the things.
So the next character that's involved in these scenarios is Volos. Volos is a sergeant of one of the Dragon's Claws units. He is by he is a night and day with Toharan. He is enormous and covered in bony growths, and he definitely has very nasty retractable bone blades that come out of his arms. Volos is a reluctant and modest leader, which is in the 41st millennium, that actually can be a bit of a flaw, because he does hesitate to react to a lot of the bad stuff that's going on, just because he can't believe that these terrible things are happening to his brothers. We represent him as basically a standard assault marine sergeant, but we give him an extra wound because he is so big and so mean. And we also give him a really good weapon skill, 5 weapon skill, and a 9 leadership. He is a veteran sergeant at this point. He's very well respected.
And just to give a little bit of background on why he has 2 wounds, the ospedula, which is the organ that's kind of in overdrive on these guys, it doesn't just give them bony growths. On all Space Marines, it creates a really strong bone structure in their body. It's like their whole rib cage is one fused thing. But in Black Dragons, all those bone structures that are made stronger are made even thicker and even stronger. So these guys can take a pummeling like most Space Marines cannot.
Yeah, it's almost a pleasure to feel the pain of when he extends his bone blades,
which is kind of Slaaneshi.
Yeah,
he takes pleasure in pain. But Slaanesh wouldn't really get much of a foothold in this guy, because he takes pleasure in it because he feels it takes him closer to the Emperor, because he feels that the Emperor made him this way, so he's paying tribute to the Emperor by doing this.
Right. So our first scenario is called the Fight to Lexica Keep. The Black Dragons have landed on the planet of Antagonis, only to find that the entire population is suffering from a zombie virus. They land expecting to have to wade through zombies, but the zombies are strangely passive, and they walk through the crowds of milling zombies without much of a problem, and find the leadership of this world
huddled together in a bunker, waiting to be rescued.
Yeah, and this it's just one unit of Space Marines, one unit of tactical Marines, finding and attempting to lead these survivors, including children, to Lexica Keep, which is an old keep across a deep valley, which should be safe from the zombie horde.
Yeah. But they're not completely alone, because there's also a regiment of Mortesian guards also present, with a couple of tanks and quite a few soldiers. Because, well, what better meat shield than the guardsmen?
That's right. I mean, I guess they count as being there.
Yeah, they are represented on the table.
That's true.
So yeah,
So, anyways, the Space Marines and the Imperial Guard make their way out of the bunker. But once the zombies see those survivors, all heck breaks loose, and the zombies attack.
and just to give you an image here, we're not talking about a couple of thousand zombies, because Space Marines do that for lunch. We're talking about basically an entire planet made zombie. So we're talking about millions upon millions of zombies. And they're all just piling in mindlessly, just trying to get to these survivors and kill them.
Yes, and the single-mindedness of that is a little strange to Toharan, who's leading this group. But he doesn't think about it, because all he's thinking about is wading through zombies and clearing a path for the humans. And boy, oh boy, do we see some Space Marines killing zombies. Wow.
Oh yeah. So this is a gauntlet-style mission, as I said before. It means that the players control the Space Marines and the Imperial Guardsmen. The civilians just move with them. And they're basically trying to get across the table from the exit point of the bunker and to the table exit, which is on the other side. And the zombies have only one goal, which is to kill all the survivors. So this is basically a run for the end zone.
That's right. The table is basically an 8-foot by 4-foot. The 4 feet in the middle is city. The starting edge is clear to represent the city square. And the opposite side, it just put a few hills over there to represent the edge of the mountain pass that proves to be helpful to escape.
Yeah.
And it's a hammer and anvil style deployment, obviously. One short edge all the way to the other short edge.
Yeah. The Game Master will set up zombie tokens to represent the millions of zombies, because, well, controlling, say, a couple of hundred zombie tokens, it's just going to take way too much time to move around and pick off as casualties and everything. So
yeah, and it wouldn't be very much fun either.
Yeah. So to speed the game up and try to reproduce some of the intensity of this running for the hills and trying to survive kind of scenario, we made zombie tokens, which are basically 4-inch long triangular stand-ups with the zombies on them, a front and a back side. And these have to be connected 2 and 2 together to make 8-inch long zombie tokens. This is just to represent the front of the zombie tidal wave, which is just washing against these guardsmen and Space Marines constantly.
Yeah, just imagine the tokens as the front edge of millions of zombies pouring in.
The zombies have a really basic profile. You took it from Plague Zombies, did you?
Yeah, Plague Zombies, Imperial Guardsmen, mostly just basic usual human profiles.
Yeah. Weapon skill 3, ballistic skill 0, strength 3, toughness 3, no wounds, initiative 3, 8 attacks, because there's quite a few zombies in that 4-inch long token, and leadership 7, no save.
That's right. And the leadership I just put that in there in case somehow there was a strange way of causing a leadership check, even though they are quite fearless. So wound 0, I should explain that. The zombies have a rule called Infinite Wave. Instead of losing wounds, whenever they're dealt a wound, they're pushed back 1 inch away from the civilians, including on Overwatch. It's assumed that every member of this team, their goal is to protect the civilians. So they're always pushed away from the civilians, no matter what angle the shots are coming from. Also, the zombies do still get to strike back when dealt wounds in close combat, regardless of who's at what initiative. The wounds are dealt at the end of close combat. They are also allowed to pile in to any individual unit that they want, as long as they have the ability to swing one of their little tokens around to touch something else.
So that's the infinite wave rule. Next up is the they're everywhere rule. And that means templates do 3d6 hits on a token, large blasts do 2d6, and a small blast does 1d6 hits to a token. So, okay, you throw a hand grenade, small blast. If you scatter way, way off, you just move that scatter so it touches the nearest token to where it landed and deals damage from there. It's just no matter where you throw a hand grenade or demolo charge or whatever it is, you will hit something. And these guys aren't really hurling these things at as long as they're able to. They're just chucking it over a couple of heads because they know that's all it needs.
Yeah, definitely. Like there are so many zombies that you really can't miss unless you are so bad you make it scatter back onto yourself.
Yeah, and that is the only exception to the whole it will scatter towards the nearest zombie token. If you scatter onto yourself, you're humped.
Yeah. In fact, I recommend if an Imperial Guardsman throws a grenade and it lands on survivors, that gentleman is instantly executed for incompetence.
Yeah.
The next ability they have is Infected. Whenever an Imperial Guardsman is killed in close combat by a zombie token, it's counted as part of the zombie horde which killed them. He's now technically part of that zombie token's unit. I strongly suggest taking that guardsman model and putting it behind the token, that you know which guardsmen go with which unit. So they may have wounds allocated to them by the player at any time that a template is wounded instead of moving the token back. So this creates an interesting choice for the player, which in our playtesting was one of the more fun parts of the battle, where when the Imperial player did damage to the token, did they want to get rid of these extra guardsmen that were doing extra attacks and actually able to shoot their lasgun, or did they want to push the token back? So it was very interesting, and yeah, the zombies, the guardsmen that become zombies, are allowed to shoot with their las guns, but they're at ballistic skill 1 instead of 3.
Yeah, they may not be completely there, but they still know how to operate a gun. They know that all guardsmen know that the only way to shoot a lasgun is to point it in the general direction and shoot until you're empty.
That's right. Oh, but also don't forget, it's also important to note that neither survivors nor Space Marines become zombies. They are, for all intents and purposes, immune to this disease, sort of.
We have 2 more rules for these zombies, and the next one would be one goal. The zombies have just one goal, and that is to kill as many civilians as possible, preferably all of them.
Right. That doesn't mean they won't try to kill guardsmen or Space Marines to get towards that goal, but any chance they have, the GM must try to kill civilians with zombies.
And the last one, slow to react. Zombies can never do a sweeping advance.
And that's really very important for the general fun of the scenario. It would be horrible if the zombies swept the survivors after doing some wounds.
Yeah, and well, they're zombies. I don't think they know how to run down a target like this.
Right. Much less run at all.
Yeah.
All right. So the game length of this game is technically infinite, but you stop when there are no Imperial models left on the board, either due to the fact that they ran off the board or the fact that they have all been killed.
Victory conditions here would be complete defeat. If less than half the survivors make it off the table, it's a standard victory. If more than half of the survivors and more than half of the Space Marines get off the table safely, it's a major victory. But here's the kicker. Once the civilians get out of the city, that's the central 4x4, all the guardsmen turn into zombies. That's when mayhem happens.
That's right. It'll be fairly easy as you're going through, but at that point, that's where all cards are on the table, and things can go very wrong.
Yeah. So 10 attack marines, that's really not very helpful against all these zombies. But you designed in a couple of helpers, didn't you?
That's right. The first is we've been talking about, and that's the Mortesian Guard. There are 60 Mortesian Guard. Unfortunately, the Guardsmen are also fuel for the fire because they can become zombies. They're basic. They're just 2 squads of basic infantry with no special weapons. They're also accompanied by 3 Hellhounds with heavy bolters, and they're just regular Hellhounds. So they have the Torrent Flamer. One of the Hellhounds is actually the company commander. I think that this is a really cool ability that I think would actually be kind of neat in the regular Imperial Guard Codex, to have the company commander be a different kind of tank. And that's really how it's represented in the book. So he acts just like a regular company commander. The Hellhounds are a little different. Every turn that they fire their flamer, they roll the game turn. And if they roll the game turn or less, they run out of Promethium. But they get to shoot first. So when they shoot, they make the roll. But also, they're not immune to zombie attacks.
Yep. Because it would be kind of stupid to just let a tank roll through zombies and just roll through zombies. So the zombies, being the half-mindless idiots they are, they will just throw themselves at the tanks and actually use that as an attack against the tank. And if enough zombies can fling themselves in the treads of the tank ain't going nowhere.
That's right. For every 6 the zombies roll to penetrate the armor of the Hellhound, it gains a bogged token. So, for every bogged token a Hellhound has, it reduces all its movement by 3 inches. That means that a Hellhound with 2 tokens moves at 0 at combat and 6 inches at cruising. So if you really put on the gas, you can still move.
But even though they can blow up the tank, a tank that's 18 inches behind everything else is not really going to help you.
No, that's absolutely correct. So who else do we need to help us out of this fix, Snorre?
Saviors from the sky. Yeah, there's this Thunderhawk that's called a Battle Pyre, which is the one that the Black Dragons arrived on. It will come at a point where the GM feels that, things are really starting to get problematic for the players. The Thunderhawk comes in and does a bombing run. It's D3, Strength 7, AP4, and we want a Hellstorm template, which is the Apocalypse Flamer template. But if you don't have that, Large Blast is fine.
Yeah.
And, since this is most likely a Promethium kind of bombing run, we would use it as a normal flame template, but you can always flip it around and say it's a frag bomb or something, just to see how that works. But, just the main thing is you get 3 big pipelates or something similar onto the field, and then as it leaves, it just leaves behind some 10 gifts in the form of Dragon's Claws.
Yeah, they're so angry. They're so angry and throwing flamers at zombies. At this point, there should be no zombie tokens anywhere near the survivors after they drop in. This should really give the players all the breathing room they need. So these gentlemen deep strike out of the battle pyre. So they don't scatter. They just land Um, and they're all considered independent characters. So all the Space Marines in this scenario act as independent characters. You can form them into units if you want. You can detach them if you want. Not only that, they also have 2 wounds. So they all have 2 wounds. Not only that, but they also have the "it will not die" special rule. This keeps a Space Marine from perishing to random happenstance. So a random wound here and there will be less likely to kill them. However, having 2 wounds means that if they do throw themselves at a big group of zombies and take all those hits and die, that means they've died a hero's death, worthy of a Space Marine.
Oh, definitely. One last thing that we gave these Space Marines in this mission is Protector of Humanity. Black Dragon Space Marines may look out, sir, any model within 4 inches at any time. Which is basically, if anything gets close to killing a civilian, they can just lunge in and save them in the last second.
Yeah, and this is extremely important for the players to use, especially at the end when all the guardsmen become zombies. This is actually described a little bit in the book when Torharon is trying to protect the people as they're running. He's just grabbing hold of this little child and just taking shot after shot while he's running away and trying to save them. Very heroic, very cool. I think that the main important thing to for the players here in this scenario is to conserve those and to use those Hellhounds very wisely. That's the one thing that we got from playing this scenario, is that those can make or break your game because they're very important.
Yeah, there's nothing like a 3d6 flamer template to put out every now and then to keep the hordes at bay. Those
Yeah.
will be really important.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very important to just keep moving too. You always want to keep moving during this scenario. We
Yeah.
have an alternative method of movement for this that we were talking about after our playtesting session, and that's to forego the actual movement phase. We're suggesting to move in both at the beginning of the shooting phase and also at the beginning of the assault phase for the Imperial players. This is to make up for the fact that you're building ground by shooting the zombies, but then the zombies promptly fill that space afterwards. So it's kind of important to get a little bit of extra movement in there when you're playing this scenario, or else you won't get anywhere.
Yeah. And just to finish off the whole, these are the forces, the survivors.
All right.
There are 26 survivors, and they move as a unit and have the following profile. They have weapon skill 2, ballistic skill 2, strength 3, toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 3, 1 attack, and leadership 6, no save. So if the zombies get to these guys, they are most likely going to die, because they've never had combat training. They're mostly aristocracy, which is the usual thing, They are the ones that get rescued when the planet goes to hell.
Mm-hmm. And they totally deserve it too.
Oh yeah.
No, they don't.
Of course not.
All right, great. Well, that's our first scenario. We hope you guys enjoy that one. So the next one.
Just one thing.
Okay.
Just to be sure that you actually can set this up and everything, we have made a PDF that you can download because it has much better instructions than we can give verbally. It's much easier to follow everything when you have it on paper. So don't worry, you will be able to download this and use that as a guide when you're setting up and playing this.
Absolutely. And again, please let us know if you have any thoughts on this, and we are not above making changes to what we've worked on to improve it.
Yeah. Facebook private messages or just messages to our Facebook page directly works great, because then we can interact and other people, if we do it straight to the page, other people can see, we can discuss.
Right. And no unwarranted name calling, though. Warranted name calling is fine, but unwarranted name calling is bad.
Yeah.
All right. So the next scenario has an awesome name.
Worm sign.
So at this point, we have many Space Marines and a few survivors have made it back to Lexica Keep.
Now we'll be introduced to probably the coolest character in this book.
I agree.
It's a canoness by the name of Stheno. She is probably the scariest and most kick-ass woman you will ever read about in 40k. Well, I haven't read it all, but she's up there. She is the last survivor of her convent, and the story behind that get explained. I'm not going to spoil it because it's such a cool part of the book, but whenever she enters a room, people just stop talking, and it's like, oh, is she judging me now? I'm so screwed. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much everybody but the Space Marines poo themselves when she comes.
Yeah, and even the Space Marines find her unnerving when she enters. Even they feel a little bit scared. It was like, why is she here? Because no one really knows why. She's just there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an Inquisitor in the room, and you can hear the F-bombs going off in his head when she shows up.
Yeah. So she's cold, she's calculating, and she's referred to as the Gorgon. Her devotion to the Emperor is absolute. Well, she's a sister of battle, so that kind of goes without saying, but she takes that whole thing to another level too. She will, without a second thought, forsake all else in the Emperor's name. She may be cold, but she's not inhuman. She really is a powerful person, but she simply possesses a perfect clarity of purpose that most people will never know, and let alone pursue. She doesn't care about niceties or anything. She knows what needs to be done, and she will do anything to make sure it is done.
That's right, yeah. And I think there's one or two points where someone makes a comment about her having some kind of special powers or special abilities or something like that. That is not the case. Canoness Setheno simply possesses a mental clarity that is beyond a normal human.
You could almost get the feeling she has some of the same traits as Farseer, only she's not a psyker.
Yeah, exactly. She is vacant of any psychic ability, unlike another Sister of Battle that we won't mention right now. So, for her rules, we wanted to have her, unlike the Space Marines, she truly is a little bit different from other canonesses. So she has a few extra rules. So right now she's working with the Black Dragons to ferret out a taint which becomes apparent much later. So when she's working with the Black Dragons, she's considered a battle brother. And this brings up kind of a point that I wanted to bring up here, Snorre. When you're telling stories with your Warhammer 40k models, you shouldn't let the rules dictate your story.
Yeah.
Whenever you need to turn away from them. So in the beginning, when we said that the Black Dragons don't work with anyone, in this case, they're working with Setheno to an end. And if you're telling a story on your tabletop, you should look past these rules sometimes to tell the story. You need to.
Yeah, and I would say that Games Workshop doesn't really say that you have to obey all the rules, because one of the first things they write in their book is the most important rule is to have fun. And if that means skipping a couple of rules just to make a scenario work better, fine, go with it. Just knock yourself out. Go and do the crazy things that kind of break the system, but as long as you're having fun, go with it.
Yeah, as long as you're not doing it at the expense of others, for the sake of doing it at the expense of others, there's nothing wrong with it. As
Yeah.
long as you've talked it through with your friends and opponents beforehand.
Yeah, it's something that's been discussed quite a bit in lately,
Yeah,
the whole social contract of playing games.
yeah,
And narrative gaming is social contract gaming to the extreme because
that's right.
everyone around the table are in on the tail and everyone should contribute to making a cool mission and maybe make it like, ooh, what a twist kind of thing. See,
What a
yeah,
twist!
exactly. M. Night Shyamalan, I hate you, but sometimes you're fun to make fun of. Yeah,
Canoness Sethano uses the bog standard rules for a canoness in the Sisters of Battle book. She's got the Aegis, Act of Faith, Shield of Faith, all those things. But she also has some additional rules. She's fearless because she is.
yeah,
um, she's got a rule called necessary. She knows what must be done in the service of the Emperor. Not only that, but just by being in the presence of the Gorgon, her allies are reminded of the importance of their grim loyalty to the Emperor. Sethano and all friendly units within 12 inches of her may reroll any and all leadership checks. We see this throughout the book. Anybody who's with her is inspired, if you want to use that word, to work towards the goals of the Emperor.
yeah. At some point in the book, even the enemy goes like, oh my god, I've done something stupid. Repent, 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 repent. Please forgive me, repent, repent, repent.
Forgive me,
Yeah,
Emperor.
she scares the crap out of people, even though it's the enemy.
And this is and this is another example of, like, every character in this book, another example of judging by the book by its cover gets you screwed, because she is this monstrosity of, like, she is like a 7 foot tall beat stick of a woman who is terrifying. But right before this scenario, she looks in the eyes of a pair of Imperial Guardsmen and asks their forgiveness for what she's about to do, and pops them in the face with her pistol.
Yep.
But because she knows what must be done, but she still has that spark of emotion in her, which is really interesting. Really, really interesting. You want to do the next one?
Yeah. Another special rule will be confidant, because the canoness sees something in Volos and his men which must ultimately cleanse the black dragons of the dark forces at work in their midst. There's some tension in the black dragons between those who are considered the blessed, as in has lots of bones, and the pure ones who have no visible bones, even if they can conjure up some bones through skin, like when they want to. So, for the purpose of scenarios presented in the supplement, Canoness Sethano is a battle brother to any unit of the Dragon's Claws.
That's right. She's only working with that group. So that's why it's important to make that distinction.
Yeah, that will be the Assault Marine version of the Black Dragons.
That's right.
The people who definitely have all the bones they need and then some.
The next rule is called Perfect Clarity. Sethano is not easily tricked by the works of chaos, to say the least. Not only that, but she is a witch's bane. Sethano may reroll all deny the witch rolls. In addition, Sethano may, at the beginning of her shooting phase, remove a single blessing or malediction from a unit within 12 inches. She needs simply pass a leadership check, and the blessing or malediction is dispelled. This is an example of what her mental fortitude can do on the battlefield.
Yeah, her clarity basically makes her think, or makes her realize that this is just hocus pocus. So it's like, snap out of it. Don't worry about this because this isn't real. Go about your business. Everything's fine, and people believe her. And then that's the end of that malediction.
Right, and a player may think of this as kind of hokey, but let's be honest. Psychics are hokey to begin with. It's everything that a psyker does comes out of their belief that it can work, and their ability to conjure it from the warp in pure belief form, especially Tzeentchian magic.
Yeah.
And she's able to look at someone and say, don't believe that. That is not true. The true way is the emperor. And the person is she kind of shares a little bit of that clarity with them.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can handle that word a little better than I can.
Yeah. Finally, Sateno has a Relic Blade. It's called Skarpratar. Don't ask about the name. It's just kind of weird. But it's a mighty and ancient weapon, trust me. It once belonged to Saint Demetria, which devours demons, sorcerers, and witches with equal glee. It's probably not a really kosher weapon in the Imperium, but as long as it slays demons, I guess these people are okay with it.
Kind of like the Black Dragons themselves.
Yeah. It's also got the rare ability to deflect incoming fire, whether it's bolter shells or warp blasts. So something fishy is going on there.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm pulling this out of my butt. This happens in the book. She legit deflects warp blasts with this blade.
Yeah. Now, Skarpratar grants Sateno a 4+ invulnerable save to represent this. And when striking demons, Skarpratar ignores invulnerable saves. So this is basically a Grey Knight-style demon-slaying sword.
Yeah, and you did a much better job of saying that name than I ever could. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not taking credit because it's probably wrong. But it has the following profile, just so we finish this up. It's range melee. It's strength +1, AP 3. So it's a pretty badass close combat weapon.
Yeah, it's really cool. And it's only shadowed in its coolness by the person who wields it.
Yes.
So, another character that gets introduced this early on is Inquisitor Leninger. He is one of the antagonists of this book. He's here to expose the Black Dragons as a traitorous or deeply flawed chapter of Space Marines. Inquisitor Leninger is secretly of the Ordo Malleus, and the captain of the Second Company actually calls him out on it, and it freaks him out a little bit. Yeah, so that's how the company knows that he's here, not really to see the work done on antagonists, but to investigate the Black Dragons.
Yeah, he's really Weasley character.
I agree. Yeah, he's more of he slinks around in the shadows. He works as like a in one of the battles he's actually slinking around shooting people in the back of the head instead of fighting them face on. You can take him in this second scenario, but he really doesn't add much. He's just basically a regular Ordo Malleus Inquisitor.
Yeah, and just to elaborate a little bit, he prefers to whisper inspiration into other people's ears and then hopefully harvest some credit for it afterwards, or take credit, really, afterwards. That was me behind the scenes making this happen. That's the kind of guy he is.
Yeah, he's very interested in making his mark on the Imperium, even though he knows there will never be songs sung about him. There will be whispers. His name will be whispered in the Inquisition, and that excites him.
Yeah, it's not really a good attitude in this system.
No. So the battlefield for this second mission is entirely dependent on how many points you plan on playing. This battle can be played in increments of 400 points. And for every 400 points, you add a 2-foot by 2-foot section. This makes it easy for people with Realm of Battle to use that for this game. We suggest not putting any terrain on the table for this one. It's meant to be kind of a how long can you last type situation on a plane. One of the 2-foot sections could be used to represent Lexica keep, surround it with some walls, and put 400 points in there as well. Also, for every 400 points is a doubt worm.
Yeah. The doubt worm is basically chaos spawned demon worm thing that devours a lot of things.
Right, yeah. Do you want to talk about how the doubt worm comes into being in the story? The doubt worm is a chaos beast that is born from the survivors of Antagonis. What actually happens is that the survivors are the ones most tainted by chaos, and it is the zombies who are the ones who haven't actually fully succumbed to chaos and are trying to destroy those who are.
Yeah. Da da da. Ooh, what a twist.
With a twist! The doubt worm is a disease, a mental warp disease that infects the mind into believing that the Emperor does not exist. This leaves the Space Marines a little incredulous. How ridiculous! He is our father! But for humans who have only heard whispers of the Emperor or have never actually seen the Emperor, it's actually very easy to believe that he is not real. So the Space Marines get word that there are little pockets of resistance throughout the zombie horde, which surprises them, but they go to assist anyways. Unfortunately for them, it's all a ruse, and the survivors begin to take shape into a weird, worm-like, multi-eyed with teeth monsters.
Yeah. Trust me, really ugly.
Yeah, you don't want to look someone in the eye and have that eye try to bite you. That's gross.
Exactly.
So again, for every 400 points of Imperial forces, you get a doubt worm. You want to go over the rules for the doubt worm?
So, as Adam said, 400 points give you a doubt worm, and it has something of a ridiculous profile. It has weapon skill 3, ballistic skill 0, strength 3, toughness 3, 35 wounds. No more, no less. Initiative 3.
No, you can have more.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay, buddy.
Yeah, so 6 attacks and leadership 3 no saves. It's a monstrous creature. It's enormous. It's endless. It's an eternal warrior, and it's got chump and hungry. So
aren't those great special rules?
Yeah. Let's do them again. Monstrous creature with chomp and hungry. It's enormous. It's endless, and it's got eternal warrior. Yeah, you get
this guy's a jerk.
Yeah, you get the point. So let's go through and explain some of these custom rules that we made.
Right. So the thing is that it was to have this thing have more than a 3 strength actually made it kind of difficult for 400 points of Space Marines to fight. So instead we went with a lot of attacks are these little mouths biting little chunks out of Space Marine, just kind of like annoying the Space Marine with lots of little attacks as the worm thrashes around biting. But sometimes instead of smashing or biting with lots of attacks, he can chomp. So instead of flailing about and slamming its opponent with smash attacks, the doubt worm may lash out at a single opponent with a mighty bite attack. The doubt worm may forgo all of its attacks to make one strength 10 attack at weapon skill 5. So that almost guarantees a hit and almost guarantees that you're going to eat that Space Marine.
Yeah, trust me, that's going to hurt. It's probably going to leave half a Space Marine on the table and half the Space Marine inside the worm.
Right, unless you're Volos, of course. In
which
case you jump inside the worm and shoot its brains out with your bolter, which is, fine, great.
Yeah. Now, next up is Hungary. Whenever a zombie token and a doubt worm are in base contact, the zombie token is removed from the board, and the doubt worm gains 2 wounds. It's basically just rolling around, healing itself. So whenever 2 doubt worms are in base contact, the doubt worm with the lowest wounds between them is removed from the board, and the other doubt worm gets its wounds and permanently gains 1 strength and 1 toughness.
Bigger doubt worm.
Yeah. Just to go into a little bit what it looks like in the book. It starts out as 10, 20 foot long, maybe 10 feet tall, little worm, quote unquote little. And it grows to the size of a city eventually, and, even bigger. At the end is probably the size of a continent. And that's when the planet is lost. But, this thing just grows, and it grows fast.
Yeah, it's a myth that you can see the Great Wall of China from space. You can definitely see the Doubtworm from space. So we did forget to mention that there are also zombie tokens in this mission as well, right?
Yeah, we did. Because at the beginning of the scenario, there are only zombie tokens fighting the Space Marines. That's where it starts. So at the top of turn 2, the Doubtworm appears, and all the zombies just mindlessly just slog towards the Doubtworm just to feed it more.
Yes, they want to jump into the Doubtworm and become more Doubtworm. And again, this explains you can have you do start off with 35 wounds, but you can have as many as the zombies add on throughout the game. And the zombies act pretty much the same as the zombies from the first scenario, except we cut it down to 1/2 of a token for each one.
Yeah, that's 1 4-inch part of a token.
Right. So the real tactical gist of this is trying to allocate your resources to either keep zombies away or kill Doubtworm, or one or the other, or both. How much you can. It's a race for the clock, basically.
Yeah. You're basically down on this plane, you're fighting the Doubtworms and the zombies, and you're hoping that you will survive long enough for the battle pyre to come pick you up. But there's no guarantee. You're just down there fighting, and hopefully you'll survive.
Yeah.
And there's actually one minor thing we forgot to mention properly here also, and that is, if you're doing a 400-point mission, you can always have that as a fight in front of the Lexica Keep, or if you want to have a big fight, then it's down on the plains. If you have it up by the Lexica Keep, feel free to have Sathano join in. If it's down at the plain, you leave her out, because she's busy up at the Lexica Keep fighting off the worm up there. So, just a story part, but, can make you, can give you an option to fight this or that battle.
Right, and I also suggest if you're doing the plane battle, go ahead and add Volos too, and maybe even throw Eternal Warrior on him, just so he can hopefully kind of survive those big old smash attacks, those chomp attacks.
Yeah.
So the next ability is enormous. The Doubtworm may be targeted with shooting even if he's engaged in close combat. Additionally, at the beginning of the assault phase, a Doubtworm which is engaged in close combat may choose to charge an enemy which is not engaged. Both the enemy it is already engaged with or enemy it is charging may fire Overwatch if it does this. So if it basically gets the D&D attack of opportunity if it leaves close combat with an enemy. This lets it kind of bounce around the table, assaulting things, and also kind of get near a Space Marine unit that's maybe fighting a zombie unit or something.
Yep. So it's basically never locked in close combat.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So finally, we have Endless. The Doubtworm has no maximum wounds value. So it can be hundreds of wounds if you're unlucky. It's also never truly slain, so even if you get it down to 0 wounds, it's still not dead and taken off the table. Because a Doubtworm that is reduced to 0 wounds may take no actions until it has been restored by a zombie token. So it's dead, you're running around cheering, a zombie token pokes it, and it's up again, and you have to start the dance all over again.
That's right. Which is why it's important I got to keep the game going, even if you killed your Doubtworms. Which brings us to our game length. We do use variable game length for this because the whole point of the scenario is that you are trying to take these Doubtworms out of commission so that the Battle Pyre can come and pick you up safely. Because at this point, the Doubtworms are so big and so nasty that they can just swat a Thunderhawk out of the sky.
Oops, I batted my eyelashes. Thunderhawk crashed to the ground.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And the victory goes to the Imperium if they are able to have a Doubtworm down to 0 when the game ends, meaning that someone got saved. It's a crushing victory if everyone gets saved in this way, if all the Doubtworms are down to 0 when the game ends. But if no Doubtworms have been reduced to 0 when the game ends, then that is a defeat for the Imperium.
Yeah. Maybe a couple of guys made it off planet, but they didn't really do their job properly. So we still count that as a victory for chaos.
So this game, this scenario, first of all, I left it to some friends to playtest this for us. Adon from the Independent Characters actually did some playtesting of this scenario for us. And from what I understand, the original version of this scenario was quite painful to play.
Yeah, we're sorry, Adon. We promise we'll do a better job next time.
Thank you so much. And that's the whole point of this. You got to just keep playing it, keep trying it out. Again, we'd love feedback on these scenarios. Another thing about this scenario is that you need Doubtworms. You need a big, scary monster to fight. And one of the things you could use, if you've got it, are Tyranid giant monstrous creatures.
Ziffle and Ollie, anyone?
We also add some instructions for creating your own Doubtworm, which also might be a fun little hobby project for you. You can actually make your own plaster out of flour and water, or flour and watered down white glue. If you're in Europe, you want to put a lot more water in your glue because you have with a thicker PVA glue, right, Snorre?
Yep.
So you mix that up about a 2-to-1 ratio. You get yourself a sock. Put your hand on the sock like a
sock puppet.
Like a sock puppet. Thank you. Like a sock puppet. You slather some of that on there. You can leave it on for a little while and let it crust up a little bit. You slip out of it, and all you have to do next day is paint it up, put some gross teeth covered eyes on it, and you got yourself a Doubtworm.
Yeah, just make sure you don't have it on your foot when you put on the gooey stuff. It's probably easier to get off if you have it on your hand. And
that's right.
I'm pretty sure we talked about something. You don't use socks that are new. Your wife's probably happier if you take some socks with holes in them.
That's right. That's an important distinction, Snorre.
Yeah.
The Masters of the Forge are strictly a not get stabbed in the face by your wife podcast.
Yeah. We encourage a healthy home relationship, so don't piss off the missus.
Exactly. So another important thing to note about these first two scenarios is the fact that they are a little weird, and we recommend if they don't sound fun to you, don't play them. But do take a look and see if there's any elements of them that you might want to use in other scenarios.
Yeah, because these are really setup kind of scenarios for the rest of the scenarios. We actually have 4 more, and we'll cover them next time.
That's right.
Hopefully we'll even have Big Jim with us, because the next scenario is actually Killzone.
That's right. It's a Killzone scenario. It's a kind of an entry-level Killzone scenario, but we'd love for you guys to play it because it's a wonderful way to play 40K.
Yep. And let's see. Is there anything else we haven't covered? Oh yeah, actually, third-party models or alternative resin. For example, there's other figures or other models you can use as a Doubtworm too. Forge World has the big worm thing for their Warhammer Fantasy. I actually saw a cool worm on a third-party site. I think they're called Rot Hand Studios. It was a demonic carrion worm. Looked really nasty. Actually kind of fit my idea of what these worms look like. Packs of 3, so if you want to have a bigger battle, then hey, you got more worms, and they do actually look cool.
Right, yeah, and heck, even check your attic. You might even find yourself an old glowworm from the 80s you can use.
Glowworm? 80s?
Yeah, from back in the 80s, there was this awesome stuffed animal called a glowworm. It was basically a little, like a stuffed worm, like a legit stuffed worm, that when you squeeze it, its eyes lit up. It was...
So
it's a weird, like Hasbro.
Weird radioactive toy that never hit Europe, maybe?
Yeah.
I was alive back in the 80s and I can't remember it.
You know, we Americans, we love our radioactive animals. So
yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. So basically what we're saying here is have fun. If you have something worm-like, then you feel free to use it. Doesn't have to be big, even though the worm in this scenario gets ridiculously big, but it's like anything will do. And if you don't have anything, get creative.
That's right. I guess that's it, Snorre. Should we close out the show?
Yeah.
This has been the first episode of the Masters of the Forge podcast. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah. So have fun. Play games
the way you want to.
Indeed.
We'll see everybody next time.
We will, in 2 weeks' time. The music used in this podcast was made by Parad of the duo Sublevel 3. The track is used with his permission. This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Non-Commercial International License. More information about this license and contact information if you have any requests can be found at our blog mastersoftheforge.com.